Hi, my name is Jamie Lynch, and you are listening to Eating Habits, my podcast about everything restaurants. I will explore the human element of the hospitality business, and I'll talk to the who's who in restaurants, explore their stories, and hear what's on their minds in the ever-changing landscape of the food and beverage industry. Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of the Eating Habits podcast. On this week's episode, I catch up with Jamie Hough of Redfish Mafia Charters in Charleston, South Carolina. We talk about everything from his appearance on Master Chef to cooking for Darius Rucker and even starting a rescue charity for victims of natural disasters. It's a truly fascinating conversation. Jamie is a hilarious guy, really energetic and passionate about what he does. And I think you guys are really going to like his story. Enjoy the show.
My name is Captain Jamie Hough from Charleston, South Carolina, and you're watching, well, I guess, and listening to Eating Habits as of right now.
That's it. Thanks. What's up, Jamie?
What's up, Jamie?
Welcome aboard.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate you.
No, wait, that's your line.
Oh, welcome aboard, Jamie.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. What's up, man? Thanks for taking some time to do this.
Absolutely, man. It's I had nothing better to do today.
Yeah, what's up with that? It's a beautiful Charleston day out here. I'm like,
I know.
If I weren't recording a podcast, I'd probably be out fishing.
Right there in Colonial Lake.
What are you doing here?
What's
going on, man?
Here's the deal, man. I blew a power head in December 8th.
I don't know what that means.
I blew a very expensive piece of equipment on the motor. So internal combustion engine explodes naturally.
And this is for your fishing boat?
Yeah. So I haven't been able to run charters since then. I'll get back into it next week. So we're looking at 4.5 months. Which has given me a great opportunity and a lot of time to get more in depth with the cooking.
Yeah.
And music, which is, one of the things we'll touch on that, I guess. But,
yeah, for sure.
I love concerts.
Yeah.
I'm not a musician. Let's make that clear.
Who's your favorite musician?
Oh man,
Don't do it.
There's a bunch of them. Darius Rucker's awesome. Is that what you're looking
right
for?
Right off the rip.
You planted the seed.
We're gonna have to circle back to that.
Yeah. So yeah, when you reached out, I was like, hell yeah, I'll do this. Even if I had other stuff to do, I would have canceled everything. So
how did we meet? You remember?
I knew about you
food?
before we met, though.
Okay.
No. T, my producer on Master Chef, was your producer on Top Chef.
Yeah. Okay.
And oddly enough, everybody thinks that I was on Top Chef, and I wasn't.
Yes.
And I don't think it's because we look alike. I think it's just because Top Chef's...
You're about 3 feet taller than me.
Right. But you're a way better chef than I am. So
you're better looking.
I appreciate that. The minute you guys opened up Tempest, being a fisherman and hearing the whole fish, eat everything, utilize the whole fish concept, I was like, we got to go.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to you and told you we were coming in, and you so graciously came downstairs and met everybody in the party, both of us.
Yeah.
My wife and I. So it was a very incredible dinner. Awesome. And it set the stage for, I must have sent you guys in the past 2 or 3 years, probably 100 tables.
Awesome, man.
Just
Thank
because,
you.
no worries.
Appreciate
it's worth it.
We need you to send us some of that fish. And I want to touch on that.
Yeah.
Because you can't get redfish around. You guys are illegal. You guys got that shit on lock.
Well, it's illegal to keep them.
Okay.
Unless they're within a certain slot.
But you can keep them if you charter on your boat. Like if you take me out fishing as a charter.
Keep 2.
You can keep 2.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to be
between 15 and 23 inches.
Yeah.
But one of the laws in South Carolina, Florida didn't have this law for a long time. So when I was down there charter fishing, we sold a lot of our catch if the people didn't want it. South Carolina has never allowed that.
Yeah.
If you're making money from a charter, you cannot make money by selling the fish.
Gotcha.
So we have several fish here that are considered game fish, and they're under that game fish description legally. Sea trout's one, which is one of my favorites.
That's one of my favorites too, man. It's such a delicious fish.
Absolutely.
With the oil content, but it's not like hardcore oily like a mackerel or a.
It reminds me of a scamp.
Yeah, it's so good.
You get that little juice from a scamp. I can almost drink it out of the bowl.
Yeah.
When it's coming out of the oven.
What's your favorite fish to go after?
To go after, as far as just catching, bull reds, blue marlins, tarpon.
So you like none of which you like going for the big fish.
Well, I cut my teeth blue marlin fishing and sail fishing and tarpon fishing.
Got it.
In the Florida Keys and in the Caribbean and South America.
Cool.
And then, when I was a freshman in college, I started my charter business here, inshore fishing. And then I would spend half the year here in school after that, and then a half a year traveling to pay for school, essentially.
Do you know cricket?
Cricket's one of my homies for sure.
He's a
I
good
told him
dude.
if he ever fishes Michael Jordan in Charleston again without calling me, I'll burn his house down.
He's awesome. I actually talked to him the other day. I was wondering if he'd been out doing any fishing, but I guess he's been busy with,
Man, he's
kids
killing it.
making kids and
He's busy
oysters,
with that oyster
making
business.
kids and oysters.
Yeah. Deja's doing the kids. He's doing the oysters,
Yeah. Cool.
But I told him if he keeps eating all the oysters, he's just going to have more kids.
Right. Yeah. Right. That's what they
It's
say. Right.
a downward spiral.
That's too funny. So you started with the big fish offshore. What brought you? What got you into the inshore fishing? Is it just
I didn't want to wait tables.
Yeah.
I waited tables and worked in restaurants when I was in high school.
why not?
And my friends were making $200-$300 a week in 1995 waiting tables, and I didn't come from money. I think my allowance back then was $400 a month, and that had to include my rent. Mm-hmm. But it was also $1,700 a semester to go to college in Charleston.
Right.
So it was a pretty good trade off.
Yeah.
And so I decided to. Hope she's not listening. Stephanie Menon, that owned Menon Fabergé Company, lived across the street from my parents in Pauley's, but she was there maybe 1 month out of the year. And we had an arrangement. I could use her boat, her John boat, as long as I kept her grass cut. So I cut the grass all summer and then borrowed her John boat. I don't think she knew I was going to bring it down here. And then for like a few weeks, I got into flounder fishing because that's all you do in Pauley's Island.
Yeah.
There were no redfish, there were no trout back then. Everybody flounder fished, and that was it. And so we got into that, and I realized real quick that I could make way more money in a 4-hour trip than my buddies were making in a week of waiting tables. And you don't want to be up all night and then try to do well in school. Whether or not I did well in school is irrelevant at this point. I'm just saying.
So are you saying that you went fishing so that you could do well in school?
So that I could at least pay for it.
Yeah, okay, got it.
But then you wind up having extra money, and a keg party every weekend is not a bad idea. And at the College of Charleston, having a boat puts you on the top of the list with the ladies. That's also not a bad idea. So all you
and so were you using this borrowed boat this whole time?
No, I bought.
Did you end up getting your own boat?
At the end of '96, which was my end of my freshman year, I bought a boat. 3 buddies, me and Ryan Higgins and Brian Scott. So Ryan Higgins is one of the top guys at Viking Yachts now. Mm-hmm. We all moved to the Keys together that summer. We went to the Keys for spring break my freshman year. I was like, I'm moving down here.
Yeah,
and
it's gorgeous.
I went ahead and got my captain's license, went down there. I didn't tell them I had it.
Yep.
We all second made it on boats until we got a job. And then I bought Ryan's flats boat that summer. And then that was the beginning of flat spot charters. So summer 96. So I guess we're looking at, August will be 28 years.
Sweet.
It's been a long time.
Yeah. So it's been working out well for you then.
Yeah. I mean, no crashes yet.
That's a win.
Notable anyway.
The boat still floats. That's always the bonus. Still catching fish.
Yeah, still catching fish. The loving it as much as I used to. I don't hop on a boat and just naturally say, I'm glad to be on a boat today. Like I used to. And like most people do if they're not on a boat every day.
Yep.
If we're not absolutely jacking the fish, I'm miserable. But that's what keeps me on my toes.
Yeah.
And it makes sure that I give everybody 110%.
Yeah.
The minute I stop giving it 110%, I'll quit fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What have you noticed? I mean, you've been doing it long enough around here that the amount of fish
it's in shambles.
Is it really?
Yeah, man. So
What's
when I
going
started, there was 9 of us, 9 guides.
Yep.
Now there's over 500 licensed.
So they're
typically another 10% that aren't. And this new, I don't know, generation or group or gap of guides that are coming in, they feel the only way. Some of them, I don't want to put them all in the same category, but some of them feel the only way to maintain the business and to gain new clients and keep them coming back is to kill fish. Mm-hmm. What they don't understand is that they're dictating now who their clientele are going to be in 10 or 15 years.
Right.
My clients have known for 15, 20 years that we don't kill redfish, period.
Yeah.
They're my business partners.
Yeah.
It's ludicrous to think you can go out there and kill them every day.
Right.
You want to be the best fisherman around, right?
Yeah.
You want to go catch as many as possible. So theoretically, you're going to go catch your limit every day. Mm-hmm. There's not enough fish to sustain that.
Yeah.
We don't get the Gulf. There's a mentality down there, and they kill their 25 trout per person and their 5 reds per person every trip. They do 1 trip a day, when they get their limit, they come home. They don't stay there catching until the time's up. And their goal is to be home by like 10 a.m.
Right.
They get an influx of fish from the Gulf of Mexico every time the wind blows out of the south.
Yeah.
We don't get an influx of migratory fish unless it's bull reds in the summer. Which takes me to another point. These people, they're learning how to catch these bull reds, but they're not learning how to take care of them. And those fish are going to lay 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 eggs a summer. And they'll do it for 100 years.
Yeah, wow.
A redfish can get up to 100 years old. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So you don't take care of one that's only bred for 15 years. You're eliminating, plus 75, 80 years of breeding from that fish.
So what's your take on the keeping policy? Do you keep any fish, or do you,
So when they're not spawning, we'll kill sea trout.
Yeah.
I'll kill some. November, December is the best months of the year for sea trout.
Yeah.
Numbers wise, we catch a bunch and they're good size.
What are the limits on sea trout?
So it's 10 per person.
Okay.
Per day. But so if we had 4 clients on the boat, we could keep 40.
Yeah.
Not allowed to keep the guide's limit.
Yeah.
My boat rule is we don't keep over 20.
Yeah, I mean 40 is a ton of fish.
Man.
Like, dude, you got to have a ton of friends.
You're going to be throwing fillets away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my other rule
or
is
ruin
kind
it
of
in the freezer. You're throwing the freezer for 6 months, and what's the point of
away
that?
to make room for the new ones.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be more than a year old.
Right.
But I tell people we don't feed the neighbors.
Yep.
If they want to have fish fry, tell them to book a trip.
Yeah. Come on out.
And we don't put them in the freezer.
Yeah.
But those are the only 2 months that I'll really kill them.
Okay.
And the main reason is because it's right before our coldest part of the year, which is January, February. If you're going to have a freeze, typically about every 5 or 6 years, then you've just killed fish that were probably going to die anyway. Right. And I hate to do that, saying, well, they were going to die. It's like the hunt club mentality.
Yeah, right.
If I don't shoot it, somebody else will. But our trout population is pretty strong.
Yeah.
The time of year we shouldn't keep them, and I don't keep them, is right now, April and May.
Okay.
Because they're spawning.
They're getting fired up for the
they're
warm.
spawning hard right now. The old timers,
are they good fishing this time? Like this time of year, are they just
right now,
can you just
great.
grab them like crazy?
They're I wouldn't say like crazy.
Yeah.
You can't go through artificials like you do in the winter.
Yeah.
We have to use real light leaders, long leaders, small hooks, live bait. We throw little tiny menhadens that are just now showing up, and we watch them eat them on the surface, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Super light tackle. That's one of my favorite things to do. Unfortunately, the over 65 crowd still kills them this time of year.
Yeah.
And so you're eliminating those fish from spawning. If they were to shut down, if the DNR were to shut down April and May and make it a no-kill, time of year, our trout population would boom. We would be a trophy trout destination, like Mosquito Lagoon or Lake Charles, Louisiana. I've been pushing for years for that to happen.
Yeah, you want them to close for certain.
I wish they would close keeping them.
Yeah,
there's no law anywhere in the U.S. that says you can't catch.
Right,
because
it's all about
literally
it's all about keeping.
No way for the average fisherman to dictate.
Yeah.
Whether you catch. So I get people all the time like, "What can we catch?" I'm like, "We can catch anything."
Yeah, you try to catch anything.
Whether you can keep it or not is a different ballgame. So I wish they would shut it down so that you can't keep. We let all the big girls go this time of year.
Yeah.
If you catch them and they're drumming, then they're males. So the males drum. Yep. The females don't drum.
Got it.
They're flexing their sperm diaphragm.
Okay.
I tell all my clients it means that they like you.
Nice.
So
you got to make it personal, right?
Yeah. Redfish are in the same category. They're not sea trout. Actually, aren't a trout.
Yeah.
They're in the drum family.
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah. I didn't know that.
It's odd, but that's the deal. They kind of look like a rainbow trout, but not really.
What's the toughest catch for you out there? If you're out there and you want to go for the elusive catch, what is it?
I mean, here tarpon.
Because everything is elusive catch for me. I'm an awesome fisherman and I can't catch anything. Like if I catch
on average,
a guppy, I'm like,
elusive.
woo!
Right.
Tarpon
are probably the hardest here to catch.
Okay.
I spent a lot of years catching them in the Keys.
Yeah.
I won't even take tarpon trips here anymore because I like catching them.
Yeah.
I don't like getting 50 shark bites to catch a tarpon. And I don't like taking people's money and then them not getting what they wanted out of the deal, which was to catch a tarpon.
So Corey and I did that one time. We went out. We chartered a boat. We were still living in Charlotte at the time, and we were like, "Let's get out on the water. Let's go fish a river." And so we chartered a boat. We went out, and it was not a great experience.
Really,
and we caught nothing.
Well, let me ask you this:
we caught nothing.
How about
it
your
still
guide,
paid for the? It still paid for the trip.
But how was your guide?
Not great.
See, and that's the kicker. 50% of this.
I think he was wasted.
It's just like being on a cooking show.
Yeah, I think he was hammered.
You could be the best cook out there.
Yeah.
If you don't have a good personality, you're going to be awful on the show.
Yep.
It's the same thing with being a fishing guide.
Yeah.
You have to be able to entertain your people when the fishing's not at its best.
Yeah.
You also have to be able to entertain your people while in your mind you're thinking about the next 5 moves.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what makes it. I won't say makes it easy because I challenge myself a lot and I have a difficult time in the kitchen sometimes, but that's what makes it easier for me, I think, than the average person. I'm always thinking about 5 or 6 steps.
Yeah.
Because I can have 6 or 7 pans going. You know the deal. Yeah. Timing is everything.
Yep.
Well, it's the same on a boat.
Yeah.
The difference is nobody's lives are in the palm of my hand when I'm in the kitchen.
Right. Except for your own. Yeah, except for your own.
Exactly. Assuming we don't have some large scale fire.
Right.
So, that's the deal. I really like catching what people think we can't catch. Yeah. And I really like cooking what people think I can't cook. Yeah. Which is why I'm getting more into the Asian and Indian cuisine.
Cool. Let's talk about that. So let's talk about your cooking career. So that kind of kicked off.
I'm still waiting on it to be, at the career level.
Yeah. Okay.
It kicked off because of MasterChef, honestly. So how
does Pawleys Island fishermen decide to get on national TV?
Well, that's not at all what happened.
Okay.
I didn't really decide to get on national TV.
Okay. Did you lose a bet?
No, I wish I had.
Yeah.
But this makes a better story. So we're out at Red Drum, which is one of my favorite spots. Ben Berryhill's a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And it was like a Thursday night, maybe June or July. No, it was probably April or May.
Okay.
And a buddy of mine from college had married this girl, and she was with another girl who had just recently gotten divorced, and her husband worked for a network.
Okay.
I guess at that point in time, it must have been Fox. Mm-hmm. And Mark's wife introduced me as somebody who likes to cook. We go to dinner at their house 3 or 4 nights a week because it's hard to cook well for 2 people.
Sure.
So we have 3 or 4 nights a week. I
still can't do it.
I invited him over last night. You missed out on the fish cakes, by the way. And the mac and peas and the red rice. Oof. I know. And I smoked a bunch of grouper heads. I love just getting fish heads from Abundant and just smoking grouper heads, then picking them. And like tonight we'll make fish tacos with smoked grouper head meat.
Nice.
At any rate, awesome. So they're coming tonight. Some other people coming tonight. So, she's like, we like to go eat at their house. Well, if you like to cook, let me send you this email. I was like, all right, cool. Forward me the email. 1:30 in the morning, I get home, after a few libations, a little inebriated. Yeah. And I filled out this application and completely forgot. And I never get calls.
Move.
You can laugh. It's fun.
Classic move.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a lot of other things I do at 1:30 a.m. I completely forgot. I've ordered guns online. Completely forgot. Wait, who ordered? Why is UPS
why is
coming?
this here?
Yeah. Oh, I've already got a charger, but you ordered another one. So I'm getting phone calls from California, and nobody ever books a trip from California. Yeah. Ever in the history
Were
of
you dodging that call? You saw the number come up? You're like,
I was like, I don't owe school loans, right? My auto warranty is not expired because I buy a new truck every 3 years. And I'm pretty sure I don't qualify for Medicaid.
Right, yeah, not quite yet.
Those are really the only 3 calls I get from California. So like a month later, I answer the phone. I'm like, what? And this gay guy on the other end, who happens to be a really good friend of mine now, his name is Winston Avalos. Okay. Was one of the wranglers for MasterChef.
Nice.
And the reason I say gay guy, because when you answer the phone and there's a flamboyantly gay guy screaming at you on the other end, you take note, and it means a little more. Yeah, like I instantly would have hung up. Yeah. It had just been a regular dude screaming. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah. I'm not listening to you.
Why haven't you been answering your phone? And I'm like, why would I answer my phone from California? He goes, well, you need to be downtown tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. to do your signature dish for MasterChef. I'm like, well, what's my signature dish?
Yeah, what does that mean?
I forgot I filled this thing out and put my signature dish, which was
it was on the
and
form.
Grits, haphazardly.
Okay. Of course.
Like 90% of the people that showed up that day. I think out of 1,200 people, there was like 500 and change that did shrimp and grits.
So, was that here in Charleston?
Did they was at the Culinary Institute.
It was god dang
at the end of Market
Street. Shrimp and grit cook off.
Evidently, yeah. And so I was like, man, I can't be there at 10. I have to fish tomorrow. What do you mean you have to fish? Nobody has to fish. I'm like, dude, that's what I do for a living. Did you not read my application? I'm sure I put that down. I don't know what I put my signature dish as, but I know I put my occupation down as a fisherman. Right. And so at 1 o'clock, I show up and with a Traeger in the back and a cast iron pan and made shrimp and grits in the parking lot.
Nice.
Yeah, it was pretty cool until I went in and they made me wait like 6 hours.
Yeah. You're like, this is going to be cold.
Yeah. Well, evidently I had it in a K2 bag cooler and stuff. And, it was cold, but so was everybody else's.
Okay, good.
And then, of course, the guys from the show aren't there. In my naivety, I'm thinking, Gordon Ramsay's going to be here.
Oh, yeah.
This guy's going to taste my dish, I didn't know who Joe was. I'd never seen MasterChef in my life. Yeah. So I didn't know what it entailed. Had no idea until like 2 months later we were going to be gone for, up to 10 weeks.
Yep.
Putting a business on hold. And at that point, I only had 2 businesses, which was the apparel business and the fishing. And putting anything on hold when you're self-employed with 0 employees to take over,
right,
it's a tough nut,
Mm-hmm.
But I went out there and it took like 4 months in the process. I know I don't have any warrants. We did like a 6-hour FBI background search and lie detector test, and I thought for sure I wasn't going to be on the show because
like one of these things is gonna get me kicked off.
There's going to be a snack.
One of them.
They know everything about me though, and they still let me go on the show. I was like, y'all must have some really bad applicants.
That makes for good TV.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, this guy's going to rock.
And I feel like I did, you'll get a kick out of this though. I didn't get any PT after the first Mise en Place episode.
PT?
Playtime.
Oh, okay.
Or airtime. I call it PT because I played sports,
Gotcha.
That Mise en Place episode, we had to clean a fish.
Yeah.
And so I go out there, and after working on head boats in high school, and
you slayed it.
Yeah, but it was roast porgy.
Okay.
And of course, Gordon was like silver snapper, 27 times.
Yeah. You're like,
And afterwards, they're like, what do you think about cleaning that snapper? I'm like, it wasn't a snapper. What do you mean it wasn't a snapper? And I gave him the whole Paw Prudhomme story, marketability of
That's
fish.
That's why you didn't get your PT.
Well, no, they were like, we need you to say snapper. I was like, I'm not saying it's a snapper.
Nope.
All my friends that fish for a living are going to be like, what the fuck is he talking about? Yeah, he doesn't.
What are you talking about?
That's not a snapper. And so for like 2 episodes, they wouldn't put me on screen.
That's funny.
But if you go back and watch it, I don't think he says snapper one time. They edited it all out.
They took it out? Yeah. They had a fisherman on there. You can't be like...
Exactly. But that's one of the things about the culinary world that frustrates me.
A red fish is a snapper. That's it.
Right.
That's all they know.
Exactly. Beeliner, snapper.
Yeah, it's a total snapper.
Red snapper, snapper.
Yeah.
Yellow snapper, snapper.
It's all snapper.
It's kind of like the wreckfish conundrum.
What is the wreckfish conundrum?
There is a species called wreckfish, right? But there's a whole category of groupers and bottom dwellers called wreckfish. And it's really one of the things I hate about the culinary industry.
I hate that stuff too. I'm a straight shooter when it comes to like menu descriptions, species stuff.
Right.
Because I think it's important. It's
you've also cut your teeth in the era where you're getting whole fish.
Yeah.
It's not like they would just come as a fillet and saran wrap.
You're
like
well,
they used to.
Looks like a snapper.
Right.
I don't know. About the same size, same color.
Looks like grouper. Who cares if it's amberjack?
Yeah.
Right.
So
that whole part of the culinary world frustrates me enough that I was like, I'm not calling this.
Yeah. I'm not doing that.
No. And,
so what was that experience like for you on to be you cooked you enjoyed cooking before you filled out this thing haphazardly, just kind of like whatever, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Do you feel confident in your cooking skills before
enough?
Yeah.
But I was a child actor.
Okay.
I know this is a whole nother.
What?
Hey, don't
hold up.
No, well, we can't really get into it a lot. It's just too much.
Okay, stop.
So the being in front of a camera didn't bother me at all.
Okay.
And I felt like, so I had an edge on everybody else because everybody else is so nervous at the cameras. I'm like, bring it down.
Yeah, like, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I filmed 2 or 3 fishing shows a year. Mm-hmm. Just being on camera and being on stage, public speaking, that stuff just doesn't bother me. I mean, I get a little bit nervous. I call it nervous. My wife's like, that's not nervous.
Yeah.
You can't tell that I'm nervous. It's not visible. But in that studio, knowing that, I'm going to be out here for 6, 8, 10 weeks.
Yep.
If you do well.
Yeah.
I still had never seen the show. I didn't know what it entailed. Yep. I didn't know these guys I was cooking for. I didn't know the enormity of Gordon Ramsay. I just heard his name before.
Right.
As far as I knew, he was like, Emerald.
Yeah.
Didn't know it was a whole different level.
Mm-hmm.
Also didn't know Aaron was going to wind up being a good friend and one of the coolest dudes around.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, on the other hand, still, like, he wouldn't even hug us or anything or shake hands with us when we made top 10. He's like, not until you make top 6. I'm like, but if I don't get a top 6, man, you at least shake my hand, dap it up a little bit or something, No, so being around those guys didn't bother me where other people were super nervous. And being around the people we were cooking for, I had no idea who Grant Achatz was when I cooked for him.
Yeah.
So I'm the redneck that made hoe cakes 3 ways for Grant Achatz. And he loved it.
Yeah.
That was the baller thing about it was a cool dish that you could tell that I wasn't doing it to press him.
Right.
And the only reason I did it is because I've been wanting to cook these 3 hoe cakes the whole time I was there.
Yeah.
And it was the first time they said, go crazy, cook whatever you want.
Yeah, do your thing.
It's a plating challenge.
Yeah.
So no ingredient boundaries, none of that stuff. I was like, hell yeah. So, it was my favorite thing to cook.
And that might have been your advantage though, is like not knowing, not being totally immersed in all the stuff.
Right.
I remember like, so
it's hard to give a shit when you don't know what to give a shit about.
Yeah. Like, so when I did the second tour on Top Chef for the All-Star season.
That's right.
And the first episode of that season, I went into that season totally different than the first time, right? The first time I was like terrified because I'm not a competition chef.
Right.
I'm a restaurant chef. I do menus for people that come into my restaurant. The second time I went, I was like, I'm just going to go and have fun because now I know the drill, right? Like I'm a vet. I know what to do.
Yeah.
And the first judges table was like all like the grand masters of culinary, right? Like it was a finale table.
So I don't even know who to think those people would be. Like it's just not my thing.
It was like Jeremiah Tower. It was just like all these like, epic like restaurateurs, right?
Nervous all over again.
And it was like 12 of them. For the first episode, we're like cooking on the beach, and it's like every major restaurateur in the U.S. And I was just like, this is fucking crazy that for the first day, And so then the nervousness kicked in. I was like, oh shit. And we're on a beach.
Yeah, but that's your thing though. Yeah, seafood.
Yeah, I did all right. It wasn't then.
Oh, really?
No. I mean, so I'm familiar with seafood and cook seafood a lot, but vegetables are my thing. I'm the veg guy. That's my jam.
So open fire is still your thing then?
Yeah, I love open fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm into it. But anyway,
so how did you get into cooking, Jimmy?
No, this is about you. I've told my story. You got to go back and listen to. You got to listen to the other podcasts.
I do. I've never listened to a whole podcast.
Really?
Except the ones we did for roasting goats.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I need to get into it.
I like listening to podcasts.
I listen to music.
I got into podcasts after I have done so many interviews and stuff because I got sick of telling my own story. Yeah. And I wanted to hear what other people's stories were. And that's honestly why I started doing this podcast too, is to I want to hear what other people do because that's what inspires me.
So oddly enough, we've got probably 150 hours of podcast. I have all the equipment. We've got like 150 hours of it recorded and just haven't put it out there yet.
Are you going to?
I don't know. Yeah, at some point. I just don't know. I'm a perfectionist and it's kind of my downfall.
Yeah.
I'm just getting to the point in my life where let's just put it out. And if it sucks, we'll make it better.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, well, it's got to be perfect or we can't put it out. Because the minute you think it's perfect, you find one that's more perfecter. And you're like, shit, it wasn't perfect.
So I was very much like that when we started our restaurant group. Like our first restaurant, man, was like the first 3 years was brutal.
Now, what was that? Where was it?
So it was called Five Church. It's now Church and Union in Charlotte.
Yeah.
And that was our first restaurant like 11 years ago. And, I was the chef partner or whatever. And we were, at that time, there weren't a ton of chef-driven restaurants in Charlotte. A lot of like steakhouses and corporate joints. And so, me and my partners really wanted to change kind of the playing field of food in Charlotte. And so perfectionist mentality all the way, like everything had to be perfect. And it made me crazy. I mean, I was a little crazy anyways, but it made me even more crazy.
Well, and then you realize that you're perfect and the customer's perfect
are not the same.
Completely different things.
And perfect doesn't exist. Right. And that's the thing, right? It's like, it's a ever-changing goalpost, right? So you never reach it. Mm-hmm. And so if that's the goal, you end up just chasing your ass. And it took a long time for me to kind of get to the point where I was like, okay, it doesn't need to be perfect, right? And that changed my...
Well, and you can change it tomorrow night.
Yeah, I can change it whenever.
Exactly.
Well, and the beauty of it then is that, so then I had to figure out what we were striving for, right? And so then it became telling a story. It's like, okay, well, because it's about connection. Food's about connection to me. Mm-hmm. It's about how you talk to people, how you communicate with them through food.
It's the only thing that everybody on the planet has to do.
Right. So it's a powerful thing in that way. And if you think about it, people have some of the strongest memories that people have are related to food, because it's a necessity.
Well,
right?
the olfactory system's strongest memory, sense that you have. Am I not close enough? It's because of this very non-posture oriented chair.
Do you need a pillow?
Here. No, I had to take the pillow out already. I don't know what's going on with this thing. It's like Cherry from Pee-wee's Playhouse, but smaller.
Do we need to switch sides?
Not that okay.
What was I saying? So the memories, right? And so so everybody has to eat. You need to survive, and it's how your family nurtured you as you know, a youngster is feeding you. Mm-hmm. So a lot of your like powerful memories are related to that.
Absolutely.
I think.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, so I got away from like, it has to be perfect, and got more into like, what story do we want to tell? Like, what is the purpose of this dish? What are we trying to go after? Are we talking about the ingredient, the technique, the whatever? And then cooking became a lot more fun.
Right.
Like, even as a professional, I was like, you know what? Like, we can fuck around with this. Like, even if it comes out not the way we envisioned it, it's still going to be excellent. Right. You know, because we follow good technique and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
How did your cooking change from being on the show?
It changed a lot. I was a meat and three guy my whole life. You know, I was born in North Myrtle Beach, and my grandparents on my mom's side were farmers.
Mm-hmm. What kind of farmers?
Tobacco.
Whoa.
But I know.
Do you smoke?
No, he chewed matches because he did that to quit smoking like 40 years earlier.
Yeah.
But he was one of the top producers in South Carolina for RJ Reynolds for a long time.
Gotcha.
But they lived in Loris, South Carolina. And if anybody's familiar with Loris, you got the high school, then you got like a Hardee's or McDonald's, and there's an end of a block, and they had the brick house between the two and a 1 acre lot next door. And that 1 acre lot, they grew every kind of vegetable you can imagine, like 2 rows of peas, 2 rows of okra, asparagus, broccoli, anything and everything you could grow.
Yeah.
They bought milk, eggs, cheese, and that was pretty much it, besides like flour and stuff.
Yeah. Awesome.
And we'd wake up in the morning. So my work ethic came from this. My parents would send me up there for spring break and summers. Mm-hmm. And, you know, 4:30, you get up, and it's biscuits and gravy. It's just 3 of us in the house now, and 2 of them are over 60 in the sun.
Yeah. So
biscuits
you're
and
doing
gravy,
the heavy lifting
country,
of this.
yeah, country fried steak, country ham, bacon, sausage. I mean, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Fried okra in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, chocolate pies were already on the stove, and a big pile of hoe cakes, which is why I love hoe cakes. Mm-hmm. And that big pile of hoe cakes is also why I've kind of started diving into the history of foods, which has made things way more fun and interesting for me.
Yep.
And it kind of gives people a reason to have me out to like Boone Hall, Wine Under the Oaks. Not because I'm the best shrimp and grits guy, but I'm the one guy in town that's telling everybody that it's a 5,000-year-old recipe from the, you know.
You're geeking out on the story.
Yeah. I mean, people think that it came from an article in the Charlotte Observer in 1984, and that's not the case. Shrimp and grits are way older than that.
Yeah. Well, and you know, food history around here too, like you're in the perfect place
it's
for
insane.
it, right? Like, I mean, that's one of the reasons I was really excited about doing our restaurants here from Charlotte is, like getting to dive into that whole like food culture and there's so many layers of it here too, you know? Yeah. Which is awesome.
Yeah. Charleston in general, just with regards to history, everything you do here is going to have some sort of historical tie. For instance, we're talking about Darius's house down there. Knowing the history of that house now is pretty insane.
I don't know the history of the house.
That house was actually a vault for the church across the street for like 100 years. So in the back of that, the whole house was run down. The back room now, which is his music room, was the actual vault. So it's like 4 foot thick concrete walls.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty sick.
That's dope.
Yeah.
So we were joking. So you obviously cook for Darius Rucker.
Yeah, so going back to my Nashville roots, my dad had some bars and stuff in Nashville, and so we know a lot of people in the music business.
Gotcha.
And I think Mark Bryan would be considered a stepping stone. We met probably 10 or 12 years ago. You know Save Our Susie or Share Our Susie? Yeah. So Susie was supposed to take pictures at our wedding. Okay. When they found polyp tumors, you know, the cancer came back from her breast cancer surgery or whatever. And so we put on this event at Goldbug. I emceed and Mark was the music. And we met at that event and have been great friends ever since. Yeah, that's cool. But because of my dad's ties and then Mark, we've just gotten into, and our love for music. I'll say that right off the rip. We've gotten into cooking for a lot of the artists. Yeah. I've got a ton of songwriter friends that set me up. Philip Lamons called me last year. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing some Monday?" And I had charters all week and then I had something to do on Sunday. He said, "What are you doing Saturday?" I said, "I can't answer that question to you because I know that whatever you're asking me about is not, you know, do you want to grab pizza?" Yeah. You know,
it's like, no, I don't have time for ice cream.
Yeah,
Sorry,
he's like, well, I'm sitting here with Lee Brice. And he really wants a down-home Southern barbecue meal backstage at Credit One on Saturday night. Can you pull it off? I'm like, done. Yeah. It's a done deal.
Make it happen.
Yeah, so we had the Cystic Fibrosis tournament on Friday and Saturday. I'm the MC for that. Fish the tournament and the MC. So it's a full day thing. And I had my guys go over there and you know, Donnie Oliver, I don't know if you know Donnie or not.
No.
He works for PFG now, but was with US Foods forever.
Yeah.
Used to own Grills Gone Wild.
Yeah. Okay.
So Donnie went over and got all set up, and then I came later and we had a blast. The concert was over at like 11. And I have pictures on my phone from 11:50. We're still, me and Lee Brice on the back of the 40-foot smoker. It's got an 8-foot firebox, and we've got 100 of Cricket Selects on there with wet burlap and sea salt roasting, you know, just real deal roasting oysters.
Yeah.
I hate steamed oysters.
Yeah.
Just roast the oysters.
Just roast them.
Or call it an oyster steam.
Yeah.
Don't call it an oyster roast.
If you're going to roast it, put some heat on it.
Right. They steam seafood in New England.
That's right.
You roast oysters down here.
Right.
You know, car hoods and burlap and a fire.
So I'm glad you brought up New England. That was the impetus for Tempest restaurant, right? So
Really?
because we had Church and Union,
Right.
crushing. We wanted to do another restaurant here. And so we took over the space next door to Church and Union. And my partners and I we wanted to do seafood. We're like, okay, so how do we didn't want to do another oyster bar. There's plenty of oyster bars around. There's great oyster
You can
bars.
always put oysters on the menu.
Yeah, exactly. And there's great oyster houses in Charleston already. Like, we don't need to come in and do that.
Right.
We're not going to be able to do it different or special, right?
167 raw prize.
Yeah,
you don't want to compete with that.
Yeah, why would we want to deal with that? So I was like, in my head, for me, sustainability, farming, and all that stuff's super important, right? Being a food guy. And Corey and I actually had a farm for a while. So I'm like super into sustainability. So I knew it was going to be local stuff. And I'm like, how do we do seafood that nobody else is doing? And I'm from New England.
You make liver mousse.
I made liver mousse. I made monk liver mousse.
Still my favorite thing.
Monk liver mousse. Awesome. And so the idea was like, you know, I grew up on like the clam bakes and like the bakes on the shore.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, how do we do like an oyster roast inside? And so we ended up getting that mi brasa oven, which is like that Spanish charcoal oven, like a Jasper type situation.
Yeah, you go up and down.
Yeah, it basically has like cast iron grill grates.
Oh, that's right.
In a cast iron box.
But it's a live fire.
Yeah,
though.
it's charcoal. It's a charcoal fire joint. And man, that thing, so I got to cook on one of those. I called these guys. I was like, hey, let's see this thing. And that thing is so amazing for seafood.
Oh, yeah.
Because charcoal has that subtle flavor. You know, it's not that like, it's not like that hard wood smoke from barbecue, but it's like that subtle, man.
You cannot replace it.
And I was like, oh, we're doing oyster roast inside.
Yeah.
And that's what we do, man. We get all Cricket's oysters.
Awesome.
We just pop them in there and like blast them for 30 seconds, and it's amazing.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Little boogers.
Yeah, they are, aren't they?
I love it, man. His oysters are the best on the planet. There's another company that, Cosmo Goss used to be at Publican and wrote the Publican cookbook in Chicago. Anyway, we do restaurant consultations together.
Okay.
Another facet of the business that we started.
Cool.
Anyway, he builds all the restaurants and does all the menus for that other restaurant company. It's the only other oyster, you're gonna have to help me with the name, but you know them. They're the only other oyster around that's real similar to Cricket's. They're from New England. If you said it, shoot. What, you had them with us that night. What were they called? No. Man. I forgot where we were.
They're from New England?
Yeah. They're amazing. And they're real small. They're like the Yamamoto ones or whatever.
Yeah. Shit. I don't know. There's
Island Creek.
Is it Island Creek?
Yeah.
It might be Island Creek.
Man, they were so good.
There's so many.
It's the only oyster I've had that's like the Loco Cup.
Yeah.
Stuff, you know?
Yeah, it's amazing. Like,
I'm so tired of Blue Points.
yeah.
They're just
they're just everywhere. Yeah, it's just one of those things. It's like the brand has just gotten to be like it's recognizable. People
But it
are
did take
familiar
the
with it.
Apalachicolas out,
Yeah.
which I can't stand. Those in Louisiana, those
Yeah, the
hammers,
honking.
Great day. Those are stew oysters to me. You got to cut those up.
Have you ever had the Malpecs? Those are huge. Those are from Canada, and they're big. Like, you got to chew them.
Yeah, I'm not
like
down with that.
Yeah,
If
oysters
you're a
are pretty.
texture person, that big oyster's not for you.
Yeah, no. I do love oysters though. What is? Let's go back to the history thing real quick.
Yeah.
What is your favorite historical dish that inspires you to cook something?
Absolutely shrimp and grits. And I know it's such a cliche-ish dish to say around here. Because it's the history of it's so little known. especially at this day and age where people are so concerned with whether or not history is going to be influential in the future, or if it's a detriment to know it or to learn it, or if it's considered an insult to discuss it. You know, it's at the forefront of everything right now. Just the racial insecurities. People that aren't African American sometimes feel like they can't talk about things that are African American, when in all actuality, if you talk about them with respect and with a little bit of knowledge instead of ignorance, you're paying homage.
Right.
And one of the things I love about shrimp and grits is that almost everything in shrimp and grits came from the West Coast of Africa. And I love telling my friends that are African American that didn't know that, you know. It lets them know that I care about their heritage and their history, because it's all of ours. You know, that history doesn't just belong to African Americans, because all of our families, if you're from the South, in some way, shape, or form, had an elbow in it, you know, at some point. Whether it be good or bad, negative or positive. You know, we filmed an episode for a pilot show. Me and my buddy Brice was the bassist for Suicidal Tendencies. And Bad English. And a couple other bands. Black guy from the West Coast, redneck from the East Coast. And we talk about things that make other people uncomfortable. Because it's not, I'm right, you're wrong. I want to learn from you, and you want to learn from me. So he also loves fishing. I love music, but I'm horrible at it. He's horrible at fishing.
What's your instrument?
I played drums growing up.
Okay.
And he threw me into that, unbeknownst to me that was going to happen in that pilot episode. I didn't show out, but I didn't break anything, and I kept a pretty good rhythm for a few minutes. So I surprised myself even. Also, the drum set's a lot smaller to me now than it was relatively back then when I was 10 years old. You know, back then I'm like banging on stuff up here, and it sounded great. So, you know, we talk about on that show cultural misappropriation with regards to music. I didn't even know that was a thing until we started talking, and it made me start thinking about food in the same respect. So shrimp and grits has become that thing that I want to go do demos with it. I feel like it's a real easy dish. You know, with fishing, and not to get tangential, but with fishing, there's a day when things just click, and all of a sudden you don't have to think about every little thing that you've been hopefully writing down in your journal. You know, I don't even know what I'm going to do that day until I hit the head pin, see what the wind's doing, see what the water looks like, where's the bait, you know, talk to a couple people on the phone, whatever. Cooking while I was in LA kind of clicked. I don't measure to bake anymore. I mean, if I want to bake, you know, if I want to make a tiramisu or
a bake a cake,
opera cake,
you best measure.
But I make a lot of like chocolate Coca-Cola cakes, like Justine's Kitchen. I don't measure anything. You know, I make.
So if you put Coca-Cola in it, you don't need to measure.
You just don't need milk. You're measuring kind of if it's a 12-ounce can, right? You already know it's 12 ounces. You're looking at
you're
looking at a cup and a half, right?
So you are measuring.
Without measuring.
I got it.
You know, but you know, there's a lot of people that would pour that can into a cup. To see if it's an actual, you know what I'm saying?
Do they do that on MasterChef?
No.
Put that shit right into the cup?
No, believe it or not, on MasterChef, they had a lot of things measured out for you.
Really?
Yeah, because the whole thing was, we're not going to make you waste your hour measuring.
We
know you know how to measure.
We need you to get in there and burn some stuff.
Right. So there was a lot of things already measured out. You know, they had the little wine crafts, the tiny ones. They're, I guess, 6 ounces.
So
they would have 6 ounces of cream or whatever. So they just didn't want you wasting time doing stuff that they knew you already knew how to do. You can add 2 and 2. So all that being said, and I did get tangential. Sorry.
That's all good.
It's always a misnomer when I say I don't want to be tangential. I'm 100% going to be tangential.
Like
it's like I don't mean to be an asshole. You know you're about to be an asshole when you say that.
For sure.
That's why I never say it anymore. I just surprise people. Just boom, right out the gate. No, so Brice and I got to talking about the music. And so now that's when I do the shrimp and grits. So I educate people about grits. People think you have to measure grits, and it's such I've never measured grits, man. And I learned that on the show with polenta. Like I never cooked polenta in my life. Until we got out there and they didn't have grits. I was like, I guess I have to cook polenta, you know?
I find that like when you get too exact with cooking, you end up fucking it up.
Or taking the fun out of it.
You know?
Because not learning.
Well, like with something like polenta or grits, like if you measure 4-to-1 or whatever, right? You end up scorching the shit out of it because it gets dry. You know, it's like you got to add more. Like you just got to go with it. Like
put the cream and the chicken stock in a pot. Bring it to a roll boil. put your grits in, whisk it, put it on low, put the lid on it, and 5 minutes later, just turn it off.
Yeah, and if it starts to dry up,
you just add some more stock.
Yeah, just put a little more in there.
And that's one of the things I teach people too. Always have hot stock on the stove. Yeah. If you can't have hot stock, have hot cream. It's the risotto. You know, you don't ever want to add something that's going to bind it up.
Right.
I also just throw in like 8 ounces of goat cheese to 2 cups of grits. That goat cheese creams it right up, and it doesn't set up as fast. So that's one of the things I teach people is making grits. If you're going to live down here, you got to know how to make grits. Yeah. But then I teach them how the Portuguese took actual grits from South America to West Africa. You know, people think that grits came from maize from Native Americans. False. Maize and grits are completely different. Just like grits and hominy are completely different. Now you could hominy and maize, might be interchangeable. Sure. But the whole dried grits thing was something from West Africa. Okra, for instance, West African, Nile River Basin. Yep.
Do you put okra in your shrimp and grits?
I do. I split them in half and charm.
Sometimes, yeah. Are they always in there?
No, if they're available.
So in your shrimp and grits, what are the key components?
Well, I also tell people that there's southern grits, southern shrimp and grits, and restaurant shrimp and grits. Okay. Gravy shrimp and grits, non-gravy shrimp and grits. Okay. You can get this snob shrimp and grits if you want, or magnolia shrimp and grits if you want. If you come to my house, it's gonna have some gravy.
So you gotta have your gravy at your house.
You gotta have onions, peppers. You know, typically I'll put a jalapeno in there chopped up just because I like a little bit of spice. Yeah. And I saute all that down. I hate crunchy veggies in my shrimp.
You cook it way down.
I cook all that way down.
What are you cooking it in?
Butter.
Okay. Yeah, always got to be butter, right?
Yeah, 3/4 heat.
You're not an olive oil guy. You're like. Pfft.
Not for shrimp and grits, no. Now, you could do oil and butter if you want. Okay. I feel like it's a little redundant. You know, there's some things people do that for. I'm just not that guy.
That's all right.
Now, I may be saying, you might be sitting over there going, this guy knows what the fuck he's talking about. If I say something incorrect, let me know.
No, I'm into it.
I'm here to learn too.
This is about your recipe. So I'm taking notes over here.
I do onions, peppers, a little bit of jalapeno, salt and pepper. And we cook it down in the butter, and then I do the shrimp in a separate pan, high heat, salt and pepper, and I do use some grapeseed oil for that, just to keep it from getting smoky, And then I put it all in the pan, and I just add heavy cream, and let it thicken on its own, and so it's not like a roux gravy, it's just a subtle, just thick enough that it's not all around the grits, and I know that it's probably excess. I don't need to do that much, but I'm known for being extra with everything I do.
Do you do tomatoes or no tomatoes?
I do pop cherry tomatoes, cherubs or something like that.
And do you cook those down like all the way, or do you like them chunky?
I cook them until they pop and then char a little bit, and then that way when you put them in the pot, in the pan, and you're flipping them, some of them are going to bust. You still get the texture of a whole one because you get that umami bomb out of it. That's why I love the little tomatoes.
What kind of shrimp?
South Carolina shrimp all day long.
From where?
Tarvin's. Give me a break.
My man.
Where else?
I don't know. I'm just asking,
man. Dude. You got to go Tarvin's, man.
Hell yeah.
Best, and they get all their soft shells from David Richardson, who's a great friend of mine. Best soft shells on the planet.
What's your take on grits? Do you have like a specific grit that you have to go with, or can you kind of like... Some people are snobs about their rice. They're snobs about stuff like, it's got to be this.
I can tell you which ones I like to cook.
Tell me.
Are
there any that you won't cook?
I like Anson Mills. I like Anson Mills grits. I won't cook instant grits, and I won't cook white grits. I don't understand white grits. I just didn't grow up eating white grits. Like, I hate the idea of Waffle House.
I just got a vision of you scratching your head in the grocery store looking at that, like, just... Huh.
No, if I'm scratching my head on the grit aisle, I'm like, where are the Lakeside grits? The little yellow jar of Lakeside grits.
They moved them. They're not here anymore.
That Kroger took them out of all Krogers and all Harris Teeters. It drives me bananas.
So where do you shop now? Did you just give up on them?
Nobody in town. No, I order them online. I really do. I order a case at a time for like $125. All
right.
For Lakeside
so Anson Mills is your go-to.
Anson Mills is a great grit. It's a little bit thicker.
Is there a reason for Anson Mill?
I like anything local, man. Yeah. I like to support local businesses, local farms. My buddy Paul Quattlebaum has a farm now. He's gotten me into doing Midland's rice grits, which I really like.
Love it. A lot of the cooking that you're doing now, because you do a lot of cooking for like charities and events and things like that. And I think it's important to talk about that.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that part up.
Well, I mean, we were talking about all the nasty shit. Now let's get into
talk about the good stuff.
Let's talk about what good food can do.
Right. So while I'm on the show, they passed out a piece of paper one day and they said on there, who do we write the check to if you win? And I was like, Southeast Rescue and Relief, 501c3, and I didn't have it yet, but I already had the paperwork in.
So that seed was already planted. You were
2017. We didn't know we were going to Texas for Hurricane Harvey. I started fishing tournaments on the Gulf Coast for Redfish in 2009, and won a couple championships down there, and just had a ton of friends in that area from Louisiana and Texas area. And I was just tired of seeing these storms and just not knowing what to do. And of course, we hadn't had a bad one here since Hugo. I just didn't know what to do. When Hugo hit, I was 13. At 13 years old, you don't really know what to do to help other people. Yeah. It's just not in the forefront of your mind. You're worried about how am I going to steal Don Russ baseball cards from the hot stop,
Exactly.
So, which I never did, by the way.
For sure. You sure never did that.
Never did. My wife and I went to Triangle Charm Bar in Mount Pleasant, right by my house.
Yep.
And we put something out on Facebook, said, hey, we're going to put together a load of stuff to send down. So really didn't know what to send. We're just, whatever you got, toothbrushes, anything. And a friend of ours' mom responded on the thread and she said, you should go. I said, I can't go. It's, it's September, October. I think it was October for that storm. Right at the end of my busiest season, trying to save money up for January, February, which is a charter captain's plight. We're always trying to save money for January, February, because you just don't have that many trips and it's cold, miserable, whatever. And she goes, well, I'll pitch in the first $200 for fuel. What's your Venmo? And that question right there changed my life forever. I'm going to try not to get emotional. I told her the Venmo for Redfish Mafia, and it was probably the first or second year we even had Venmo. And she said she donated some money, and other people saw it on the thread. An hour later.
Oh, on the Venmo thread where
on my Facebook thread they saw my Venmo.
Oh, okay.
And an hour later, my wife looked. There was $5,500 in the Venmo. She goes, "I think you got to go to Texas." So,
and that's from other people starting to tag along.
People trying to put 15, 20, $30, $40 in there to help any amount.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, taxes weren't even on my radar. It was like, how are we going to do this? It was just like, let's get the money. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And this girl named Sally Durlat Myers called, and she had married a friend of mine from high school. So we knew her from way back. They had long since been divorced, but I hadn't seen her like 8 years. And it was a Sunday, and she had been drinking rosé all day. And she goes, James.
What else
she still calls me James.
Yeah.
James, when are you going to Texas? I said, what makes you think I'm going to Texas? She goes, well, I just saw, the Venmo stuff, and I'm pretty sure you're going to Texas. I know you well enough to know you're going to Texas. What time are you leaving? I was like, I might leave, 2 or 3 a.m. probably. Click, phone hangs up. 10 minutes later, she calls back and she goes, come pick me up. I'm like, are you serious? She goes, yeah, I want to go. I'm like, all right, cool. I asked my wife. My wife's like, Sally's got just the right amount of bitch in her to make shit happen when I can't make it happen. Like when we're rescuing families.
Yeah.
And the dad doesn't want to go. Perfect example. Yeah. We rescued this family off the second story on the porch. Water's all the way up to the floor of the apartment building. Dad's, smoking Marlboro Reds in his jean shorts, drinking Natural Light. And I'm like, hey, y'all should get in the boat. We're in a John boat on top of all the cars,
Yeah.
He goes, my friend's coming in his truck to get us. I said, man, unless he stole Bigfoot last night.
Yeah, he's not
coming to get you. And Sally goes, Mama, you want to put the kids in here? I'll go ahead and take them up there, and then y'all can come if you decide to.
Yeah.
But I'm taking those kids with
over
me
here. Yeah.
Up here to the
safe,
shelter.
To go be safe.
And 2 seconds later, all four of them were in the boat.
Right.
I'm not going to look at a mom and say, I'm taking your kids with me.
No.
Pretty sure you're 100% not allowed to do that.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah. On any account, any circumstance. So we piled everything in the truck and went down there. We raised $32,000 in like 5 days.
Wow.
We taught some churches how to get more bang for their buck with regards to feeding people. Put a house on an orphanage. We rescued 180 people out of their houses and 2 dogs, one of which I still have. His name's Beaumont because we were in Beaumont, Texas.
Nice.
Yeah. We named the other one Harvey. He died 7 months later from cancer, but I take solace in the fact that it was the best 7 months he'd ever had because both those dogs were severely mistreated.
Yeah.
We had to chop his leg off within a week of having him home.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah, from cancer that nobody treated. It was like this big on his
really?
knee. Yeah, so we've always been big into rescuing animals. Just so happens we got into rescuing people too.
Yeah. They happen to be with the animals. So you're like, all right, come on, let's go.
And then somewhere there's a hurricane every year.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
The Gulf Coast
Or
Bahamas.
some other. Did you go down to the Bahamas for that whole thing?
And herein lies the real answer to your question. That's when cooking took a turn. It was right after MasterChef. It was still airing.
Yep.
And I showed up. So my wife's family has a house in Hopetown. Stark and his girlfriend got to go with us in August. The island's not real big. It's Elbow Cay and Abaco.
Yep.
Literally the epicenter for the hurricane. It would be like McClellanville in Hugo.
Yep.
Just banged so hard on this island. Every fourth house was gone. I'm saying, when I say gone, you couldn't even tell there was a house there.
Yeah.
Everything was gone. Everything was twisted. Not an ounce, not a green leaf on the island. Like everything was gone. Mm-hmm. And I showed up. We got on Reddit and saw some drone footage, overhead footage.
Of like after the aftermath?
Yeah. And the house was still there. Family house was still there.
Really?
No porches. Yeah. House was still there. And, every house there has generators.
Yeah.
There's power, but BPL, Bahamian Power and Lights, is super, for lack of a better term, unreliable.
Yeah.
So I knew that there'd be somewhere to stay inside.
Yeah.
I called some friends of mine that own Half Moon. They're like, we still didn't have power here. Mm-hmm. I had to wait on the storm to get through here before we went down there.
Yeah.
I went and helped Ben Berryhill cut down a tree that had fallen in his parking lot. Went to Half Moon, and with flashlights, they loaded me up with everything I needed to be self-sustaining on the beach, survive on my own. I'm talking about like urine filtration kits, saltwater filtration kits, tablets for drinking water, mosquito nets, tents, the whole nine. And so I packed all that stuff up into two big, backpacks. Still didn't know how I was going to get there, but I was bound and determined. And then a buddy of mine calls, and this is the whole, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah, yeah.
If you have the right plan, as far as, your integrity and whether you're doing the right thing, it'll happen. Mm-hmm. Buddy of mine called, a lawyer in Orangeburg, and was a partner on a plane, and they were flying down. They had a place in Treasure. But we had to land at Treasure Airport. There's still 4 feet of water in Marsh Harbor. Yeah. So on day 4, I flew down. My wife put in my cooler backpack, put a bunch of insulin because she knew somebody's going to need it. Yeah. But she didn't know that I was going to need it as a bartering tool to get to. I had to use that insulin to trade for a boat ride to get to Hopetown. Wow. And when I got off the island, a guy from here, Mike Haig, he was the head of the fire department right then. Yeah. He was like, Jamie, we had a guy cooking from the inn. He just left. There's nobody to cook for the 280 people, 300 people left on the island. Yeah. Will you help us? Like, it's right up my alley. I didn't know what I was going to do to help. Yeah. Went to the house, generator fired right up. So we were the only house on that whole end of the island that had power and AC. Mm-hmm. So we were letting all the dudes from the military go in and catch a break when they were doing search and rescue. So at this point, they haven't even looked into houses yet to see if anybody died. Wow. Like it was that soon after. Yeah. And we set up 2 soup kitchens, one at Firefly Resort, one at the Sailing Club on the North End. And in 13 and a half weeks, we did 165,000 free meals. Wow. That's awesome. On day 5, I'm in a golf cart with this cat. There was a guy on the island with heart problems. We're trying to get him out of there. Nobody would come get him. There was one helicopter flying around. Lo and behold, World Central Kitchens. So they land on the island to pick this guy up, Buddy, who's now since passed away. But this guy gets in my cart, and he's like, man, you look familiar. I was like, well, I was just on MasterChef. He goes, no, you look familiar. Do you live in Charleston? Do you fish for Redfish? I was like, yeah. He goes, man, I fished with you like 10 years ago. Crazy. Josh Phelps, number 3 guy at World Central Kitchens. Oh, wow. Cool. So after we ran out of all the stuff from the freezers on the island, World Central Kitchens sent us our ingredients for free for like 9.5 weeks. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And
those guys they've done it for every hurricane since. Incredible work, man.
Yeah,
man. It's crazy what they're doing.
Jose's such a great dude. Yeah. and similar beginnings, didn't know what to do to help.
Yeah.
So let's figure out a way to take money from people who have money and no way to help, and use that to get stuff for people who have no way to get it and no money to get it.
Yeah.
Let's bring these people together. I don't have all this money to go help, but I have a lot of friends who have a lot of money, and they don't have the time to go help, mainly because they're making all this money, I think.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Which is why I have so much free time. I'm not making all this money.
That's how that works.
I think so.
Well, I got to get back to work.
Direct correlation. So that, that's the whole cooking for mass quantities.
Yeah.
Which is why it's like, it doesn't make me nervous to go wine and food. 1,100, 1,200 servings is not a big deal because I'm used to doing that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah.
Obviously on a different level with quality.
Us poor restaurant guys get hammered for.
You're like shucking an oyster per person. I'm like, how do you do it, man? I'm over here with 2, 15-gallon pots of gumbo. Like, this is easy.
You're like, we got it. Keep them coming. That's awesome.
So, that was the humble beginning to the nonprofit.
Nice.
And so, 2019 kind of spearheaded that. And then I came home off the show and people were like, hey, will you come cook for us? So it was an instant resume builder.
Yeah.
I don't know how it was for you guys. Y'all were already chefs. We were all supposed to be home cooks. So we actually had cooking classes 3 or 4 days a week. Most people don't know.
Oh,
so it'd be Gordon's team. You remember the show he had where they pulled up outside a restaurant with this big food trailer?
Yeah.
That whole team was in that food trailer, Mary and all that.
Yeah,
They were the people teaching us.
Gotcha.
3 or 4 days a week, but they wouldn't teach us, just to be clear, what we were cooking.
Yeah.
It would just be like today's dessert day.
Right.
Anything you want to learn about desserts, ask us, whatever.
Right.
Today's
We'll give you guys
day.
pointers.
Or like, most people haven't cooked veal chops.
Yeah.
That we would come in, there'd be like ostrich, veal, skirt steak or flank steak, chop, cuts of meat that most people don't cook on a regular basis.
Right.
And so you learn a lot doing that, which helped with regards to, I'll come make ossobuco for you tomorrow night.
Yeah.
And then, I turned to him. I'm like, we got to figure out how to make ossobuco. So we have a lot of really good practice.
Grab that cookbook over there. Let's get busy.
Little did I know how convenient a pressure cooker would be.
Yeah, right. Cool, man. Well, that's awesome. Well, listen, we're at an hour, so I want to wrap things up. But any last things that you want people to know? Obviously, how to book with you guys. How do you take donations for the charity? All that stuff. Let us know how we can do that.
Yeah, so
get in touch with you. And
if you want to book a fishing charter, you can
By the way, you need to teach me how to catch fish.
That's what I'm here for, man.
Because
that's what I do.
I mean, I could tie the hook.
Let me tell you the number one thing: you just got to go.
You just got to go.
You can't catch them here. You got to go fishing.
You just got to go out there. All right, cool.
So if you want to go fishing, you can go to redfishmafiacharters.com. For the apparel, you can go to theredfishmafia.com. For the nonprofit, if you want to volunteer, make donations, you can volunteer. We have a group of swiftwater rescue trained airboat guys that go in and do the rescuing, and then we feed them afterwards. So there's a whole array of things that people can volunteer for. You're going to be heavily vetted. So if you've had any psychological issues in the past, don't even get on the website. We've had to deal with that a couple times. Costs us more to fly somebody home to, the second day than it does for them to just go for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But you can go to Southeast Rescue and Relief. I think it's southeastrelief.org is the website now. We had to change it because the insurance company didn't like the rescue part. So it's southeastrelief.org.
Okay.
It's understandable.
Southeastrelief.org.
Yep.
Cool.
And then I have a really odd business model for the cooking. No website.
Yeah.
Really no phone number. Word of mouth. I'm trying to create a false demand.
Yeah.
And limited supply.
So we just call up Darius and be like, hey man, can you get me?
That's the whole thing.
Can you get me up with Jamie?
That's the thing. Yeah. So perfect example. We just booked next Friday for 100 people for a graduation party at Joe Rice's farm.
Nice.
And the guy that called is Jamie Marchant, and he is the auctioneer.
Oh, cool.
That does Monday After the Masters, which is Darius and Hootie's thing that we were at in Myrtle Beach.
Yeah.
That word of mouth.
Yep.
That's
it's like the circles just keep like
because I really like cooking for people that I know.
Yeah.
They're way more apt to say "Holy shit, that's good." Which is,
and they
it's really why I'm down
it.
for it. I really like to hear that "Holy shit, that's good."
Yeah.
They appreciate it more.
Yeah.
And they're not afraid to give you some criticism when you ask.
Right. Give you some feedback.
Yeah.
Hey, those shrimp are a little dry this time.
Gotta have. Well, they're never gonna say that.
Yeah. That's on Tarvin.
You gotta have that curl rate. That curl rate's got to be just right. No. I've really enjoyed the cooking and meeting guys like you, and Bob Cook and Ben Berryhill, and just the reception that I've gotten. And I think part of that's because, I know I'm not a chef. I don't know what the definition is. I think the minute you get paid, technically, you're a chef at that point. I love the whole yes chef showing everybody in the kitchen respect. Mm-hmm. Oh, is that mine? My alarm clock?
You got to go.
I got to call.
Time to work.
Now I got to find out what we're cooking on Friday.
Yeah.
No, so I really like the whole yes chef and how it shows everybody in the kitchen respect.
Yeah.
But I hate being called chef.
Yeah.
Because there's so many other people out there that are so much more qualified than I am.
Right.
You know, I might be better at maybe one thing, whereas somebody else is better than me at 99 other things.
Yeah.
But you know, the reception that I've gotten and being able to come in and stage for a night, even though I'm never going to come in and work.
Yeah. Go get access to that.
But like Tyler, he's told me, you know, come in anytime you want to. I've staged with Ben and staged with Bob Cook, and you know, Bob and I now do barbecue events together.
Yeah, that's cool.
He doesn't consider himself a chef either, oddly enough.
Yeah,
he hates it. He hates the term. And that's one of the things I love about it, man. And somebody came up to me at this event we just did this weekend, and they were like, you know, it's really nice to see you chefs helping each other out for a change. And I was like, what do you mean? They're like, well, it's usually so competitive. You know, you want your dish to be better than theirs. I'm like, no, I want the people to have the best possible dish from both of us. And if me helping him start his fire 5 minutes earlier helps him do that, then I'm going to take the torch over there and help him start the fire. I'm also probably going to tell him that he should start bringing a torch to a barbecue event.
Like, hey, do you have at least have a lighter or something? Like, what's up, dude?
What it is.
Mise en place, bro.
Exactly. So I'm really just happy to be a part of this new community.
Yeah.
And I just hope it, you know, I get more and more in depth with it.
Yeah.
And
well, keep doing good stuff with it, man. I mean, I think that's the key, right? Like, I think if you do good stuff with food and you know, you try to put great food in front of good people, you can't really go wrong.
Right. And then cook with people that are better than you. It's just like sports.
Yeah.
Unless you play with people better than you, you're not going to get any better.
Surround yourself with good people.
Yeah,
is a good
exactly.
way. Cool, man. Well, thanks for doing this.
Well,
I loved hearing your story.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate it. Good luck with everything. Hope you get that motor back soon because we got to go out.
Oh, I think I'm picking up on Monday.
Catch some reds, man.
That's
Let's go. Right on. Thanks, dude.
Thank you.